draws people, humility doesn't. Yet Jesus calls us to be humble and not drawn into conflict unnecessarily for the conflict's sake. As a matter of fact, we're doing the opposite. So how do we work these seemingly conflicting things out in our Christian walk as we seek to go about to being ambassadors for Christ in the middle of this very strange online world?
I do a lot of consulting on social media strategy with churches and ministries and authors and stuff, and have over the years. And usually it's about like how to be better at Facebook or, stuff like that. But talking about discernment, is always the hardest one, because it's hard. It's like one of those things that feels hard to teach. Because I'm the kind of person where I'm kind of naturally skeptical. So like, I generally don't believe something until I read it multiple places. Like, if it's politician said X, Y, or Z today, I'm like, that sounds kind of bad. Did he really say it that way? And then I look at another place that I know might have a conflicting opinion about that same event. And like, if they reported the same way, I'm like, well, yeah, dang, he really did say it that way. Or like, oh, okay, that other outlet kind of reported it in a way that favors their ideological perspective. And I just like I have the discernment to know, like, okay, this outlet tends to think this way, so they're more likely to leave that piece of context out, or that this content's more likely to give this, this outlet's more likely to give that politician the benefit of the doubt. So they're going to make sure to provide the whole context, but maybe also in a way that sounds more flowery and favorable than the other one did. So the truth's probably somewhere in the middle. I have like the patience to do that because I hate being duped. Like, I hate being tricked more than anything. I'm going to be that parent when my daughter's 13 who's like, I don't care that you did that. I'm mad that you lied about, like, that's going to be me. And that's me already in life. And so I hate being tricked and like led astray. So I've just kind of always naturally not wanted to be duped and tricked. And so I've always had a pretty high level of discernment. Not because I'm holier than anybody else, but more just because I don't like being tricked. But a lot of folks don't care about that. And I think we've learned that just in how social media has worked out over the years, that a lot of folks just want to be told what they want to hear and want to feel something. And so my biggest tip for like having discernment on the internet, beyond like, if you come across something that's controversial, especially most people get tripped up regarding politics, or even like matters of theological debate, let's say, those are the two things that if I ever have the misfortune of accidentally clicking over to my Twitter timeline, I see people fighting about politics and theology. If you see something on the internet and you're like, wow, I can't believe that's true, you should say, well, maybe it's not. Okay. That's from this place. Can I find some place that would, maybe disagree with that outlet, and see if they report the same thing happen, and see if they both report the same thing, then maybe there's some veracity to that. If they report different things, figure out why they're reporting different things and do the work. But if you don't want to do that, or if you can't do that, just slow down. And this is like, I talk about this in the book a good bit, I think, in that chapter on discernment. And I get a lot of this from Postman and his comments about like the evening news broadcast, that like, I don't think we're made to consume the measure of the world's news via our Twitter feed. I just don't think we're made for that. We're hit with, like, if you use social media with any regularity and try to consume content beyond like family photos and stuff like that, where like, if you're trying to like read about the news, which a lot of folks do, we're hit with so much content so fast. Our ability to discern is just crippled out of the gate. And so you read something or you watch a clip on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram that makes you feel a certain way, and we're just so lazy consumers, going back to the consumer idea, we're just so lazy consumers that we just assume that's true because it aligned with what we believed, and we just move on to the next thing. But we haven't sat down to like actually chew and eat our meal. It's like we're going to Golden Corral and just eating and throwing up constantly or whatever. Like, we're not actually processing what we're consuming and considering it. We're just eating so quickly we can't even understand what it is that we're consuming. And so I attribute a lot of our lack of discernment in engaging on the internet, not only with like foolishness, and certainly that's a factor, but also just with like volume of just like how much it is we're consuming. And so my biggest piece of advice, if you don't want to do the work of like investigating a claim that you see, okay, fine. If you kind of want to be lazy, then just consume less of it. And maybe that will force you to slow down. But I have largely just gone to like, I don't look for ways to think via social media anymore. I don't know if that makes sense. That's a very vague statement. Like I have a couple of columns for Twitter that are for news, but like when it comes to what's going on in the political space, I'm only going to read things that are like factual, that are like I know are true, and then come to my own conclusions. I don't look for social media to tell me what to think anymore. And maybe that's a step, kind of a basic step for folks, is like, just don't go to social media for opinions at all. Now, some might say, oh, how can you tell? Okay, well, that's where you have to do like the sort of like comparison of like who told it what way and who told it another way. But consume less and read more widely. Those are the two most base ingredients, I suppose, to maybe starting to be a bit more discerning.